Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Raise the Vibe. We're in the Voice of Vashon studio. And I have Amy Castillo here today talking about energy work. Enjoy the show, guys. Hello, everyone. This is Liz Peterson, and welcome to Raise the Vibe on Voice of Vashon's KVSH 101.9 FM. Thank you for joining me today. I have Amy Castillo in the studio. She's joining us from Burien, where she's been doing massage for 18 years, energy healing, utilizing energy and vibrational calibration, and hands-on intuitive body work. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you so much.
So how's it going today?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Wonderful. It's so great to have you in the studio, a fellow sister of energy work.
Yes.
Cool. So first, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am grateful to be here and just I'm in a place right now where I'm working to just wake up and come find my center and listen to what's right for me today and what's right for me right now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So what started that journey for you?
I've been meditation like 26 years ago. Or 25 years ago, I had two little kids and was just thinking a woman offered an evening of meditation in a meditation group. And I went and I was thinking about what are the kids doing and how hard the chair was and just this and that. And then the guide said there's a magenta light, and I saw this like closet light pole and everything went magenta, and I flew my eyes open because I thought they're tricking me, And then I was like, wow, there's something to this stuff. And that was the start of this pathway of turning within and leaning into that inner world and kind of that whole discovery. And it's taken me on this path where massage came into my world probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years after that. And then that was a whole nother opening.
Do you have a story about, what led you to massage and that opening?
My third child was my son, and I was eating organic and I was breastfeeding and feeling like I was doing the right things, and then he kept getting ear infections, and I saw an advertisement for an environmental healer that was coming, Dr. Chang's medicine, and I went and listened to him. And in the midst of it, I was like, okay, God, this is going to change my life. And I'm saying yes. And I had no idea what I was saying yes to. But afterward, I went up and asked if I could take the workshop. And he said, sure, I don't know why you couldn't. And so there was body work involved with that. And the first time I touched another body, I saw a golden light. And I heard like,
wow.
Ah, and I was like, oh my God. That's like, I just didn't even know it existed. And so I worked with him and did like his training up until there was like, oh my gosh, I need a license for this. So then I went to massage school and then recognized there's like it's like a candy store for me. It is. Like there's just endless ways to heal and to look at what's presenting with a person, what their life path has been. And kind of that combined with that inner work that I was talking about has helped me to come from a compassionate place of, non-judgment, just like we're all here together. And my core belief is that on that cellular level, we're all one. And so what I blesses me, what I curses me. And that's the kind of the way I walk through the world.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So
great. Yeah. So energy work, how did you get into energy work?
Energy work, I think I've probably always I had 3 imaginary friends as a child.
Sweet.
And just my mom would talk about ESP and vibes. And so, but not extensively, more like privately, because we were also Episcopal and, we're the good family that went to church, and I loved church. And I could see light around people, and I could, and I had experiences where I was interacting with, like, imaginary friends for me are probably my guides.
Yeah.
So I could see them at a certain point, and then I cut my forehead twice when I was 5, and I couldn't see him anymore.
Oh, wow.
I was in so much grief over that. And I would talk to, like, when I had a healing, I'd say, okay, how about my imaginary friends? Where are those guys? Yeah. And then finally I, reconnected. They never went anywhere. I just couldn't physically see them anymore at a certain point. But so energy work, I guess I got into Reiki in the beginning of my massage school. I found out that was possible. And I went through that training.
Reiki is so wonderful.
So wonderful.
For those who don't know, can you explain Reiki?
Reiki is, I feel like my definition is there's this universal, beautiful energy that's flowing through all of us. But as a practitioner, you get attuned to be able to direct it at different points and utilize it. And it also seems to be the most widely accepted energy work. It's in hospitals.
Yeah.
It's, when I shared with my dad that I had become a Reiki practitioner, and he said, "Oh, she came to our church in Connecticut," where I was like, "Really?" So that was really interesting. But and I've since trained to be a Reiki master, and just that's and I love energy, so I've trained in access healing and some other reconnective. Yeah, I just am interested in things, and so I do a lot of training because I like to see how I think it's all the same. It's just directed in different ways and accessed in different ways, and that's interesting to me.
Yeah, I think so too. So did that help reopen up your gifts?
Let's see. I guess, I think it seems that, I don't know. It's there's a continuing opening.
Yes.
And also with, I think the more centered I've become, the more comfortable I am in my own skin, the more I recognize I am the frequency that I walk around in. If I'm, radiating this frequency of love, which is my responsibility to attune myself to my center, my source, my life is going to continually be this roller coaster and these different, difficulties, let's say, and blessings. But let's face it, like the plethora of opportunities. Yes. And I've looked at those for a really long time as opportunities to grow and to kind of like iron sharpens iron. I try to take the high road, I guess you'd say, but recognizing that that's my frequency is. So I got into sound healing probably like 3.5 years ago.
Great.
I actually had breast cancer and was having surgery, a double mastectomy. And a friend of mine is a sound healer, and she generously and kindly offered me a session a week before my surgery. So I had wonderful. 6. And each time I went, it affected different parts of me. Sometimes it was physical. Sometimes it was, I was completely checked out, like, in another dimension, or I was, came out with a message or something. And so I just was like, I have to learn that. And that has helped me to grow into that awareness that we all are frequency. We all have this vibration. And I maybe can't directly affect some of the things that I wish were different in the world, but I can directly affect them with the frequency that I choose to put out and ripple out through the world. And so that's been my focus pretty much since then, is to, so when you ask me that question about like opening up my gifts, because it's just like, it's a pathway, and it's continually, if I'm listening, then I get, the next little nugget comes up, and it's like, ooh, that's fun. That feels good. And so if it feels right, then it is something I'll say yes to and just experience and bring it in.
Nice. Can you talk a little bit more about sound healing?
So sound healing to me is a pathway of healing that, again, is like this candy store. Like what I thought it was just the bowls, and so Tibetan bowls is, these ancient practices. It's such a cool time to be a healer, because the ancient practices are now scientifically being proven, and so there's measurable results of the effectiveness of this stuff. I tend to be more of a feeler, and so I'm like, oh, that feels good. That must be right. And so, the Tibetan bowls, but then it starts to be like everything started to have sound. It was like my ears had shifted, and I was able to hear different things. And so it's so fun, because it doesn't just have to be the instruments. It's, different things that make sense. It's all of a sudden like this new relationship with sound, and this new relationship with just it. And so it's interesting, you'll be playing the gong, and the mallet will flip, because sometimes I'm playing the gong and I'm so into it, I have my eyes closed, and the mallet, I guess is what I'm going to call it today, will hit it and it makes a sound that I didn't expect. But that's just a sound. Or the airplane goes over, and it's all part of that experience. And people will come out and say, was there a swan overhead? And it's like, oh, that was an airplane. But if it,
right,
whatever that experience is. And what I love about doing the sound baths is each person who attends that day, their vibrational frequency, contributes to the whole. And so we have this whole experience. So it's almost like being on the airplane where you're like, hey, buckle up, we're going to go. And you don't really know where it's going to go. I mean, we have a plan of how we're going to do it. I oftentimes work with my friend Alita. She's a fabulous sound healer and Burien, and I do these monthly sound baths, and then I do some with myself. And it's like just a discovery. It's just this never-ending discovery. It's what I imagine it to be.
Okay, so how do people find you in these sound baths? Because sound baths are incredible. Yeah. I love going to them.
Well, that's an interesting
favorite
question.
of mine.
Because I guess, so I have not had a very strong online presence.
Okay.
I did do Facebook Live for like 40 days, and I got some good feedback, and then something happened in my life, and I have, maybe it's working with energy and working daily in different dimensions. And then I'm not around my computer. It just hasn't pulled me in or gotten my interest. And I do recognize that that's a good way for business and people to find out. So I have started a website that is thequantumyurt.com, because I have a yurt in Burien where I hold these sound baths.
Great. Quantumyurt.com.
Thequantumyurt.com. And I have an Instagram, Amy in the Yurt.
Oh, cute.
And, and I do have
Amy in the Yurt.
And I do have a Facebook, but most of my Facebook is probably stuff that my children have put on for me, shared, those kind of things.
Right.
But I'm in process of engaging on that level. I've done word of mouth for 18 years. I've done massage and have a beautiful practice that's been built on word of mouth. So it's
wonderful.
Worked great for me. And, I'm open to expanding.
Right.
Just dipping my toe in that water. Less comfortable than the energy work. I like the unknown.
So for the sound baths, would you post something on Instagram perhaps or something like that when one is coming up? Or?
Yes, and I intend to put a schedule up on the website of classes. I also have these two beautiful little grandchildren that are 6 months old, a boy and a girl, Stella and Gavin, and they love that. I was in the yurt yesterday with Stella playing the bowls, and my girls came pregnant to the sound baths. And so when they were in the hospital, in labor, I brought the bowls, I brought the aromatherapy. It was so cute because the nurses were like, oh my God, I love it in here. It's important.
The energy is fabulous. It is really important.
It really is.
Set the intention.
So that was me. So I've done a family sound bath. I'm really interested in families. My massage practices had families as part of it. I've been at births, I've been at deathbeds. I am kind of like a lifespan practitioner, I would say.
Nice. Great. You're welcome. All right. So let's get back to the energy work and sort of what has that done for you in your life?
Okay. I'd say it's really supported discernment within me. It's something that I feel there's a lot of people that have a lot of gifts, and it's easy to trespass and just jump into your energy system and read you. And that's not my business. I believe I need to be invited in. If you want to, if you want my perspective on stuff that's going on with you, I'm going to be invited in. And it's helped me to have that kind of discernment. And I'm also a person who's recognized I have codependent tendencies and wanting to stay healthy with boundaries. That's been something that's I've had to really recognize and focus on. And most of those things you recognize when you've violated boundaries. And so you go, oh, that doesn't feel good. Let me reassess. And so I'm grateful for that, to have that muscle to have built within me. And in that regard, when you're healing something, you don't want to throw the baby out with bathwater. It's awesome that I'm a super nurturing person and caretaker. That's awesome. And that helps me to facilitate the healing work that I do. And if I'm doing it at the expense of my own self or my own healing or my own what's right, then it's not good and healthy.
Amen.
So it's been this, exactly. So it's an interesting, journey for sure. But Yeah.
Cool. So you said in something that you wrote me that you utilize, like utilizing energy. Can you explain that a little bit?
Okay, so I just took a 2-month sabbatical, which was really a difficult thing for me to do. For 6 months, I had been getting lay it all down. And I was like,
oh, wow.
So, and I've had eczema for about 1.5 years that was really flared up and, itchy and just disturbing, quite honestly. And I've tried elimination diets and I've tried all these different things.
Right.
And so I finally listened and I chose to take 2 months off. And fascinatingly, in 2 weeks, my eczema was completely gone. And it was one of those things where I didn't notice it until I realized, like somebody said, how's your eczema doing? And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's not a problem for me anymore. Now, during that time, I did a 40-day writing of the creation of love. And it was a really like prompts and then, meditation and then writing. So that was really a potent thing to do. And I did a 9-week manifestation class. And it was, they were both like beta groups that people were interested in seeing how that would come across. And so
that was a great experience.
It was, because it was all about getting to the starting line. It wasn't about manifesting anything out there. It was about clearing the obstacles that you're experiencing that keep you from expressing your full self. And so I got to the end of that, and this new work came through, really. That was like I have had a philosophy in my work to build my toolbox. Like, I don't know who you're going to be when you come in today, even if you're my weekly client. And I wanted to always have new, ways to access. So after those 2 months, it was like, we'll bring it all together. So I brought my massage table into the yurt, and I just did, like with one client, I did yoga stretching, and then we went and did some reflexology, and then we went into sound bath, and my voice is coming through, like I'm opening. It started with breathing probably about a year or so ago, where the breath was working to move the energy and to follow things and shift and change. And then I opened my mouth one day and these sounds came out, and I was like, whoa,
fabulous.
Wow. And so and that takes courage, and I have to grow into that courage at times, and just be willing to be an open channel for the healing to come through. And it's been kind of this new frontier area for me, and I'm really enjoying it. And that the results, I guess, or the effect that people are having is really exciting too. And so for me, it's like I can see, when I became a Reiki master, I had this experience where all of a sudden I could see your higher self, or I could see the beauty that you are, the like soul essence of you, which was so challenging to walk through the world. It was because there's so much, everyone is so beautiful and has this, whether it's hidden under a mountain of fear, there's still that essence of the love that they are. And so I didn't manage it very well in the beginning. I was crying a lot. And also it was difficult, I think, for people to receive what I was trying to say, which was like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. And that's difficult to hear for some reason. That's, and I'd say for some reason, it's like try to take a compliment sometimes, like, no, so it's this grand thing. So I've had to really learn I had to bring that back in, because it isn't the beauty that's the world maybe defines as beautiful. And so I've had to really, through the energy work that I've learned, and through the, meditation and journaling for me helps me to like integrate this stuff. Like, it's awesome. You get this big bang idea, but then to integrate it into who you are and to responsibly take that into the world has been that's the work I've been doing. And so at this point, I feel like it's to frequency. If I'm in that love frequency, which is the frequency that I think that I'm picking up from people, or that I'm seeing, and frequency is sound and color and, light. And so I'm grateful to be at a place right now where it's like my wholeness is supporting my desire to serve the world.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. And what about vibrational calibration? So mention that.
Vibrational calibration.
I love that.
So to me, the like when I say like the frequency or whatever that I'm working towards,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's an interesting conspiracy theory about the 440 hertz that is, you know, makes distress and
Mm-hmm.
grinding, and 432 is really the heart resonance, the earth resonance. It's this, you know, our peaceful place. And so I guess I was reading about that, and it made me think, well, we all have like an attunement, right? We all, and it seems easier to say my frequency's off. There's not judgment to it really. It's like, so it's just a frequency rather than, oh, you're in a bad mood today, or gosh, you know, what's your problem? Or I'm trying to like, it's like getting above the circumstances, you know, and looking at it from a different perspective where it's not maybe personal. It's how do we support each other to get to our highest good, to, you know, be that in the world, and where you do feel good. And like, you know, stuff still happens, but you're in a place where you can breathe into it and be like, okay, and open to the highest good is always right there for you to access. It's just maybe, you know, obscured by some other things. So the calibration part is to support people. Like I could call it a tune-up. That's another thing. And
Yeah.
I also, in the body work piece, there's I don't know what it is. I've had people ask me like, how'd you know how to touch my knee and my shoulder at the same time? It's like, I don't know. I really don't know what it is. But I think there's this I know there's an intelligence in the body.
Yes.
There's an intelligence in the body that I have found communication with, which I'm grateful for. And so I just sort of relax into it. I guess it's almost like channeling something, but it's that directs my hands to go to different places and different relationships that maybe don't seem like on an anatomy chart, well, they wouldn't go together, but they do for an overall support or tune up for this person to walk out, not completely different, but more calibrated to their highest good, their more centered place, their more ease, you know.
Nice. So when you go through difficulty, what do you walk yourself through?
So this morning, I woke up yesterday, I was difficulty. I was kind of struggling with some of my, you know, circumstances in my life. And I had this vision of myself in this black, kind of like black oily place. But the good news is I was looking up and there was light up there. And so I knew that it was a matter of, you know, working through those feelings. Because what I was doing was ruminating over lower frequency things or sadness or wishing things could be different than they are, which isn't the place where I'm going to find any resolution to anything, but that's where I was. And so this morning, well, this morning I woke up and I still had like that residue. And so first thing I did was I saged myself and I turned in circles, and then Palo Santo, and I turned in circles, and I just sat and prayed to the God of my heart and the God within to, you know, help me out of this dark space where I'm unable to hear my direction, like and I'm ineffective. When I'm in that place, I'm ineffective. And I love everything that's ineffective, and it's all on. And so I did that, and I did some just quiet, just breathing, and breathing really helps me. I like to really like breathe in as full as I can possibly get, and then as I breathe out, I push my lips so there's a vibration, and it helps to break that stuff up, because to me that's just heavy gunk. And so I did that for about 10 minutes and then did some writing, and it was like, it almost felt like boom. I was just like, hey, all right. So you know, and I have a singing bowl by my bed that I was playing when I went back into my room. And so just kind of like the tools and the breathing and the water and feeling the energy from the earth and feeling the energy from the air and just being part of the elements, and just kind of, actually another thing I did, this was new for me this morning, was looking at like visualizing what the fear was, and allowing it to take shape, and then declaring that I am here. This love that I am is here. And I expected it to like swoop upward, and what it did was start dissolving from the bottom, almost like it just incinerated and just evaporated. So that was a new thing this morning.
That's beautiful. That's great. And you mentioned earlier that you've been going through a large transition in your life. Can you just talk about that with us?
Yes.
And how it's affected you and where that's brought you.
Okay, so let's see. On my daughter's wedding day in August, my husband and I decided that our marriage was finished, and we've been married 29 years, and so that is not an easy decision to come to.
Yeah.
And it's been about a year and a half of getting to the end, and then deciding, well, maybe there's something else. And last summer we had a period of like 36 days of not speaking, and that really was when my compass heading, I was just like, I have to change my compass heading. Like my true north has to change, because I still have to be a person, and I have to be alive, and I have to keep working. And
can you explain what that means to you?
Okay. Well, to be okay with being uncomfortable. That's what that means to me, because I was like a foreigner in a foreign land. My home was still my home, and my daughter and her husband lived with us, and my nephew. And I started to sleep outside in where I do my work, in my studio, and then in the yurt. And I was just kind of like this transient. I was in this transient state in my life. I didn't know where I belonged. And so I went to where was most safe for me, which is where I do that work.
Yeah.
And just didn't know. He didn't want to talk to me at that time. And so I really didn't have any clue. And what was interesting is that started, I turned 50 last summer.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The 50 Club.
Yes, which was awesome. And I got gifted a healing trip to Hawaii. And as long as I could get there, I was going to get this free, gift of this energy training that was called optimizing. And wonderful. So I was like, oh my gosh, for sure. And he asked me 3 times, are you really going to go? And I was confused, because we always had generosity with each other about exploring in different places. And I was like, yeah. I mean, like, I really thought, okay, well, you might have an issue with it. We could talk about it, but there's no way I'm not going. Like, it was just like, so I went, and the workshop was wonderful, but the time I spent with myself was so potent and powerful. And I really, at the very last time I went in the ocean, it's like that one more time. So I was on my last one more time with myself, and a sea turtle swam under my belly. Aww. And then I was like, oh my God, it's a sea turtle. Went towards it, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a sea turtle. All the way. And then it came out, and it was like eye to eye with me, and it went up to the surface. So I went up to the surface, and then it went down. So I went down, and then it went under my belly, and then it just swam off. And it was like, I just had this like, whoa, like this, the love that I am just was this visceral, oh my gosh, it was just incredible. So I come out, I get to the airport, I get on this red eye, I put my head against the wall. 6 hours later, I never moved. I never went to the bathroom. So when we're in Seattle, I was like, oh my gosh. So I've just come out of the ocean, basically. And my consciousness, I had no, and when he picked me up at the airport, he just kind of like, and I was like, okay, contrast, that's contrast. It doesn't mean anything. But then, so about my compass heading, I got married at 21, and my compass heading was wife and mother, and do whatever it takes to make that strong. And what I thought was healthy then turns out is not healthy. And I've had to learn that. And there's still, obviously, with the tears and the grief, there's grief to it. And there's grief to, not knowing what you know now then. So you could choose different, but I guess we all have that. That's what life's about. So last summer, really just getting in relationship with myself, and what would it be like to be in relationship with myself in this life, and how do I still have this life and this family that I love so much, and without that couplehood, what does that look like? And so anyway, we ended up back together, and and then ironically, my second daughter got married in October last year, so she's about to have her anniversary. And then my oldest daughter found out she was pregnant, and then Story found out she was pregnant. And so it was like they were both going to have babies. So in a year, I've had 2 daughters get married and 2 daughters have babies. Wow. And I'm in a divorce. So it's like, okay, well, here we are. And I have Casey has been an amazing husband and father, and he's a beautiful artist. And our intention, both of us, is to have it be something that's, you know, I don't feel failure. I'm grateful for that. There's like regret, like I said, about different things I wish I would have known about, but you know, it's still a beautiful body of work to be married. Like it'd be 30 years, December 28th. So I mean, that's a beautiful body of work. We've created a beautiful family. We both have our own businesses. We just have different ways of interacting with the world, and we are not the support probably for each other. I know that, you know, he has wishes that I would be a certain way, and I'm not that way, and he's not my way. And it's like, well, you know, at what point do you choose to like lovingly release that? You know, really since August, it's been like there's a Buddhist principle about bird on open palm, and that's what I've been focusing on, is to just like lovingly hold my palm open and see what my life is supposed to translate into, because gripping hasn't helped. I've been gripping for probably a long while and trying to make it different than it is, and it's not different than it is. This is what's happening. So how I've gotten past, like, so the work that I did up until that, like the manifestation thing and the creation of love writing, I never intended that that would end me at the end. I would be like, oh, I'm getting divorced. That wasn't what I was thinking. But there again, you just don't know what's going to come out of these things.
That's so true.
I've been in pretty debilitating grief for about, you know, the first couple of weeks, and, you know, just really trying to be kind to myself and at the same time, that's when I came out of that sabbatical. So getting back to work. And so balancing, you know, grief and death and rebirth and all this stuff, it's been pretty, you know, just intense, real intense. And it gives me a lot of compassion for what all of us, you know, you don't get married to get divorced, but yet so many people get divorced. So obviously there's a lot of us out there that are like, oh, you know, and but it's like, I've had cancer. So honestly, like that's been helpful to me too. It's like, how did I recover from cancer? I ate well, I rested, I walked every day. So I am much more physical as far as like, I know that physical activity helps me to transmute emotions that I'm having. So, you know, so maybe now I'm at the 4 to 8 miles a day, sometimes not every day now, but in the beginning, it was just like, I was taking 2 or 3 walks a day because it helped me. And I have these 2 beautiful babies, like 2 scoops of love, and they live near me. And they're very generous to, you know, so every day I've been holding babies, and like, that's so just like the essence of unconditional love. And so it's been, there's just a ton of blessings that I have, and my children have been very supportive, and and the tone being that we both know that this is probably the most loving thing we can do is walk away. It doesn't make it easier, but it does make it much kinder.
It sounds like a beautiful uncoupling.
Conscious uncoupling. Working on it, you know.
It's a difficult journey.
It is.
And it's a beautiful thing to see both the birth and the death in your life, and how you're experiencing that, and then the gifts from your breast cancer on how to take care of yourself, because so often when we're going through difficulty, we set all those things aside. So to have that and be able to nurture yourself through it in a new way is a beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing that. That's cool. So let's talk a little bit about your sabbatical and where that's taking you, you know, after all of this experience that you've been through.
So it's so interesting to take time out, you know, and that was one of our arguments, my husband and I. He's like, why can't you just say you're retired? And it's like, because, so finally I said, well, what's your definition of retirement? Let me share mine. Mine is that I'm choosing to be done making an income at my vocation or my profession, and I'm not. I'm actually interested in a new relationship with prosperity and all that. And so, and it's very generous that he was willing to support our family and have me not do what I do. And yet, when, you know, having a vocation is different than a career. I'm a healer. I walk the earth as a healer. I stand in line at the grocery store and think about rippling out love. And, it's just what I do. It's who I am. I don't have to advertise it, but it's like, there isn't a way. And there isn't a way to stop it. It's like in me. And so it's different, I think, than if I have a different type of job that like, oh yeah, I want to not do that job anymore. Or I've aged out of that job. I'm like in the crone stage. I've just hit a new, whole spectrum of what's possible as I age. How is this healing going to translate into that? And I don't intend to not heal ever. It's so reciprocal. It's such a blessing. It is. It's tough. I mean, it's not an easy. It's not for everyone to be at a deathbed and be there healing or whatever, or be at a birth or whatever. I mean, or anything, just daily stuff. But it is for me. He said to one of my friends one time, Amy eats this shit up with a spoon. And I do. I read books for fun that are intense that wouldn't be for everyone, but that's me. And so I don't imagine that I'm the easiest person to be in relationship with. That's not, I have left my family. I have left my husband to go attend to others. And that's, it's a sacrifice for everyone. And it's what, and he's at the end of the road with that, and that's understandable. And so I'm not though. So it's kind of a commitment and a calling, I guess you would say, or it just is what it is for me. Yeah. So the sabbatical was really difficult to get to that point. I absolutely loved having time to, just be, just like to not have scheduled time was amazing. Spent a lot of time with my kids and their kids and just watching these babies grow up, and spent time reading and exploring and different things like that. And allowing, like, just kind of like the other part of laying it all down was to stop working, but to stop receiving the healings I was trained. So I have a lot of neat people that are awesome healers in my life that I trade with. So it was this instruction to let all of that go.
Wow.
Which was like, okay. And these,
because usually you're seeking those out when you're going through a traumatic event.
So it was very much a call to turn within, and kind of gather. I've been a voracious appetite for learning. I could, like, the certificates you could wallpaper, and it's not about that, but it's just what I do for fun.
And it's personal growth.
And it is personal growth. And
it scoots you along your journey.
It does. And then to be able to share that with others and, venture out. And so, but to just really be in a place of almost absorbing all that I've been, all that I've learned, it's really fortified me to be at this new place and to have the wherewithal to face it and walk it. And, it's interesting for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely like, all right, but I'm grateful.
It sounds like you're really in the flow and following the coincidences and synchronicities. And where is this flow taking you? What are you working towards?
Yes. I guess writing has been something that I've passionately loved and done a lot of. And I have like 2 shelves of books, of like notebooks filled. My daughter one time went to get a piece of paper and she goes, "You're the only person I know that writes on every page of their notebook." So they're full. And I've written about my healing journeys. I've written, I have this beloved that comes through and talks through me, I guess. And I guess it's channeled writing. Like now that I've read a lot of channeled writing, I'm like, oh, okay.
It sounds like it.
So there's things that have been growing through these years that have been expressed by me that I'm interested in them finding their place. If they're for me in my shelf, that's fine, but it feels like they're growing and calling to be put out into something else. And I'd like to work with people to, whoever is, it's just wonderful to me. I've met so many new people since those last 2 months, especially women. I've met wonderful, amazing women. And it's like, there is such a gift in, going through something difficult, and you just have to, my life looks totally different than my life was looking. And so my what I'm resonating with, what's coming into my field is like so different. And I've had this, that's how I'm on this radio show. It's like, just say yes, just say yes. So this is uncomfortable, but just say yes. So
I have found also how wonderful it is what the universe brings you.
Yes.
Yes.
Amazing. I'm in this 2020 art show for Berrien, and that came up because I was in Staples and started to talk to this woman, and she said, "Are you an artist?" And I said, "Yes."
Awesome.
So that is, it's like 9 pieces. So
that's a fantastic coincidence.
It is. It was fantastic. And so just like following the breadcrumbs or following the, saying yes, seeing what comes in. And so what's coming is a deeper expression, I guess, of what's been. I don't know, in a way. But writing for sure, and just getting more into making a schedule and committing to more sound baths and more workshops. There, I am going to do an angel frequency workshop with a teacher of mine who's coming out from Wisconsin, December 7th. And that's
wonderful.
Super exciting. I'm really excited about that. And just again, like creating, I did do a retreat for a spiritual center, Genesis Spiritual Center in Berrien, and I had the best time doing it, hosting this retreat, and it was very experiential. And this meditation had downloaded the night before, and it was about doing the meditation, but also like shaking up the body and bringing embodiment to it, because I have done spiritual bypass for years, trying to like, oh, it's all going to be okay. Skipped over it and had to do a lot of work to clear all the embodiment of that. And so really at this moment in time, recognizing the embodiment and the absolute ability we have to change our DNA, to change our neuroscience, to just our neural pathways and the neuroplasticity and the quantum physics and all that. I just love all that stuff. And it's
me too.
It's so exciting to me that this personal empowerment of your own healing. And so for me, it's like, if I can be any part of lighting you up so that you can see yourself more clearly and your choice more clearly and your effectiveness is awesome. That's what I'm here to do. So that's kind of what's up and coming, is more of that, I guess.
You really light up when you talk about that too.
Pretty excited.
That's great. So you mentioned spiritual bypassing. Can you explain that?
Well, my interpretation of that is that something would come in and it wouldn't feel good and it wouldn't feel comfortable. And people love to say, and myself too, well, everything happens for a reason. And it was like, yeah, okay. So that then everything happens for a reason. I wouldn't have to feel it anymore. I would just be like, you could say this is in God's hands and all that. And that's not that I don't practice surrender and yielding. And yes, like synchronicities and everything is happening for a reason. But what I've really come to be accountable for is I also give the meaning to everything. I'm giving meaning to everything in my life. So I did the Course in Miracles. I've done it 9 times over my life. Like,
awesome.
Get to the end and start again. And that's all about love and fear, that there's 2 choices of how you perceive the world. And I can lovingly look at something that's coming in at this point, and I don't have to like it, or parts of my shadow that I used to think I had to be good and, just really keeping that shadow at bay. And that shadow is part of me too. Like with my cancer, I had 2 tumors. And so I would go into meditation and I saw them as 2 caves. And my one was self and one was other. I never got into the other, got into the self. There were cave paintings, and it was like, okay. And every day I'd go in and I'd see different things. And by the time I had my surgery, I had a dream the night before that there was a surgeon working on me, and I could see it. And then at the end of the dream, the surgeon turned around and it was me working on myself. And I was like, good, I've accepted it.
That's amazing.
But I've accepted it. But that self part, there really isn't anybody other than me, really, that I'm in charge of. There's only me. And so, to clean, so with the cancer, there's a strong, many people feel most comfortable saying, I'm going to fight against this cancer. And if that's what's right for them, absolutely all about it. Support you. For me, it was my body made this. I made this. So it's an act of love And I choose to interpret it like that. And now love is not just an emotion. It's not just that for me. It's a frequency. It's a force. It's a wild child, And so it's like this tumor for me helped me to recognize, man, it stopped me in my tracks. I do yoga. I do meditation. I eat organically. I'm a holistic nutritionist. Like people saying, are you going to start living right? It's like, well, I've been living right. Not that I don't drink, right? I'm a balanced person, but at the same time, I wasn't the typical person to get cancer, but I was the perfect person to get cancer because it was, I was able to, almost ingest the whole experience and everything. I met the most amazing surgeon at Group Health of all things. And he talked to me about Jinshin, and which is a, Japanese healing technique or practice, and angel healers. And then the anesthesiologist was wonderful. And my family, the morning of the surgery, everybody piled in the car with blankets and books. And it was like we were going on a trip. And it was the care that I received from my family and the path of just being on the other side of the table. Huge. I was a big giver, wasn't comfortable with receiving. And all of a sudden, that's what you have to do when you're in that position. And so it's a grace-filled experience. And it does equalize it, but to love that cancer started this whole process back to the spiritual bypassing of loving that shadow. And I don't maybe like those aspects of myself, but they're myself. And when I was a little child and I was trying to cope with something, I got a coping mechanism, which helped me survive, but I didn't have any tools at the time. And they don't work when you're an adult. That's what I think we all find like, crap, now this is a problem. So it's like, but how do you integrate? I mean, I guess that's why I worded things like integrate and calibration, because I'm interested in integrating and I'm interested in wholeness, and I'm really not interested in guilt, blame, and shame at all. I don't think they do anything to support your growth. They are that blanket, and so it's like, okay, so if I have to be able to see myself in that perspective so that I'm open to seeing you and to seeing. And I'm much more interested in that, plane of existence than to be down blaming and yelling and screaming at each other. With the election, when that occurred, I really just went like, what's my highest value? And kindness is. And so that's where I anchored in. And I didn't anchor into what side. I mean, it seemed like everybody lost their mind. But we needed to lose our minds, I guess. And that's like this
to build it back up.
culling, So I'm still, but it's really helped me to live in my value. Like, instead of looking out for how everyone else could change, I'm just working to like, what can I bring to the table for myself and for others? And so.
Awesome. And how do you bring that into your practice?
Into my work?
Yes.
Yeah. So my routine, I guess you'd say, is so I have a little, it's a Costco cedar shed that my husband put a heated slate floor in, and it's called my studio. It's a beautiful sanctuary. Massage and healing is my business. And so I, greet the person and we talk for a minute, and I step outside so they can get undressed. And as I'm outside, I just really, basically, and I've done this meditation with my children where there's a worry tree, and before you walk into the garden, you put your hands on the worry tree and you give the worry tree anything that obscures your openness to spirit or to peace. And so I do that with my practice so that I walk in and I'm there to be a facilitator. And so, and then when you walk out of the garden, you can choose to pick it back up from the worry tree, or you can let the earth recycle it. And I really love that, because
that's beautiful.
You can, you don't have to worry about, sometimes we're really attached to our problems, and it's like, okay, we'll be attached to it, but just put it down for a minute, and then I love too, where you forget that like 3 hours later, you're like, oh yeah, I was worried about that. And now I'm not. So it's so reciprocal healing to me. It's just, I can't touch someone without being touched. And, being in the energy all day, it's like, there's some crazy stuff that can come up as an energy worker, as you know. But it's like, wow, that was interesting. I mean, it's just so fascinating. It's fascinating how many dimensions we exist on, and way more than I've experienced, but just the different layers that we have our beings in is just fabulous. It's just amazing. So
it is amazing. I agree. We have about 10 minutes left. You want to tell like what you offer in your place of business, if a client was to come to you, and what you offer in your yurt.
Okay. So I do body work, and let's see, something that I really is not a real wide known thing is I do chinisang, which is an abdominal organ massage. That's the Taoist monks developed it for their own enlightenment, like to clear their bodies for enlightenment. And so we, it's in our language like a bitter pill to swallow, or the gall of that person. And it's like that symbolizes that when an energy is easy and an interaction is good, you digest it easily, it moves through. If it isn't, those energy charges store. And so it's a practice of, so it's energy work. It's working in the abdomen, which can be, vulnerable for people, of course. So, but you're draped and you actually are wearing clothes, but the abdomen is exposed and the legs are up on extra bolsters to kind of soften those muscles. And it's about breathing and relaxing and feeling safe. One of the precedents in my work is that safety is really important to me, that the person is safe and they're warm and they're able to feel that this can be an experience that I'm a guide for them, that I'm the way shower, that I will take care of them at this time and they can just soften into whatever the experience is.
Nice.
And so that chinisang, I do that. I do, reflect. Basically, I do all kinds of stuff, and it just depends on what the person is interested in that day. But typically, there's a combination of body work, energy work. Like with Reiki, it's never off. So
it's never off
now.
Yeah.
And so I do that. In the year, I do yoga nidra, which is a really beautiful yoga practice for people that don't know. That's like a guided meditation, and it rotates your consciousness. And I just think it's so healing. And I can do deep tissue work. I can do things like that. And I can do lively stuff. But I also feel that the nervous system is extremely taxed, all of us, all the time. So I started with this doctor of Chinese medicine who was about environmental toxins. And for him, everything that was dis-ease was from environmental toxins. And that can even go to, food, air, water, substances, but also all the noise pollution, all the, radiation, different things that come off. So the nervous system for me is something that I love, the practices of restorative yoga and yoga nidra. And the yurt is a big, warm, open space with candles and my family's art all around. And it just seems like people come in and they kind of, it smells good. And
nice.
It's kind of a magical place. When I first came in a meditation like 10 years ago, I was like, yurt, and even when I talk to people, sometimes they're like, what's an yurt? It's kind of a weird word, but it's just these ancient structures. So it's round. So there's the energy in there. It's just phenomenal. And
it's like a womb.
It is like a womb. And unfortunately, my home is located with a green belt behind it. So it's
fabulous.
It's kind of hanging out. And
nice.
It's just a really, you walk down a garden path to get there, and it's my home too. So that's where I've been really private about, and word of mouth has been my mode because I live there. Like I want it to be, that's my first gate is like, this is my home. And then the second gate is this is my home and my work. And my clientele really has always had such reverence. And, I have dogs, I have a cat, I have squirrels, worms, slugs, all these things. But it's like, so it's really an experience, I think. And we've built this anteroom, which is a room to put your, coat and shoes and cell phone. I taught meditation at a healing center a couple of years ago, and it's an adult class where people paid money to be there. And I would say, turn your cell phones off. And sure enough, somebody's cell phone would vibrate. 5 out of the 6 weeks, somebody's cell phone went off. And it was fascinating to me that there wasn't a willingness on it. That's what I look at it as, a willingness to give to themselves, and then to recognize they're in an experience where other people have been willing to turn their phone off to give themselves that hour. And so I have these lockers that are only big enough for a cell phone and a wallet if they want to lock their stuff up. But it's like,
Oh, that's a great idea.
yeah. So it's like, okay, so that's your safe spot. And they have a crystal on it, on the locker, and then on the key. And so it's kind of a cool, energy thing. And so
that is fun.
they can walk across. And it's small. I mean, it's like 20 people is about the size of things. And so, and that keeps it intimate. That keeps it manageable. You can pack it up, I suppose, with more people, but I like for everybody to have a yoga mat, a blanket, a bolster. I have chair jacks, it's eye pillows, you want to have. So that's the right number, right around there.
Sounds like you've created a really beautiful space. What a gift.
Thank you. It has been such a gift, and I've had it for like a year. Like I said, a lot of stuff's been going on, and my meditation teacher had counseled me to claim it as my personal temple and then open it up. And so that takes time and intention, and yet I've done that.
That's a beautiful intention.
It is. And so again, that safety that I am focused on with the massage area is one person in me. And so this is like the thought of a healing center is awesome, but then it's like, who's the anchor of the healing center? Me. So I have to really anchor and be grounded and create that energetic safe space and hold that for those people. For again, just as a guide, that's what I consider myself as the, I'm the keeper of the gate for that period of time that they're in there and there. So
Great. All right, so meditation.
Yes.
Near your
meditation.
Yoga. You also teach yoga.
Yes, I do.
We haven't talked about that at all. You want to go ahead? Because
Okay. So a dear friend of mine was killed in a motorcycle accident.
I'm sorry.
It was so but it's also been someone that I've been guided by in my family too. It's anyway. He and I were supposed to go to this yoga class, and I never got there with him. And so I finally, like a year later, made it to that yoga class. And as I'm laying in the yoga class, I get this, become a yoga teacher. And I'm like, not me. I thought my daughter should be a yoga teacher, and another friend I had said, you guys would be great. So then I ended up in yoga teacher training, and went through that.
Goosebumps.
Yeah. So that's kind of, and I love yoga. And this summer, a really dear friend of mine, she's a dear friend of mine's daughter, and she makes these aromatherapy roller balls. And Taylor Stordahl is her name, and Taylor would love. And so she made these roller balls, and so we created this yoga. I said I could create a yoga class around I am powerful, I am love, I am grounded. And so
nice intentions.
And it was at Cedars Beach, and it was just wonderful. It was so much fun. And we were actually in the Seattle Times, that there was a reporter there, and they took a picture, and then my daughter and Amelia and Stella were there. And so it's like a picture of her with the baby in warrior pose, and it's awesome. It's just super fun. So it's just another tool, so in the year I do meditation classes, yoga, sound baths. I just recently have started doing, two girlfriends came, and I did reflexology. So I have 2 reflexology loungers, and so did reflexology on both of them as they laid there and talked and everything, and then did a sound bath for them. And so it's it's very much in this creative flow and generation of what's next. I'm just listening. I'm listening and I'm responding, and so that's where I feel like my life is right now. Is my business is to work on my center and my spirit, and just open to what's coming in, because there's wonderful things coming in.
It sounds like it. I'm looking forward to seeing what pops up next for you. That's amazing. And then let's go through how people can get a hold of you. Again.
Yeah.
The last couple of minutes of the show.
Okay, so the website is thequantumyurt.com, and there is a place to subscribe on there and put your email in, and it's very, very much in its initial stages. And then there's Amy in the Yurt Instagram.
Great.
And then there's word of mouth. Interesting.
And then you're also on Facebook?
I am on Facebook.
And is that under your name?
Amy Castillo, yeah.
Amy Castillo,
yes.
Great.
Yes. This is I guess a last minute thing, but I've just recently become a hostess for the Lemurian Sisterhood. And so I'll be hosting Sacred Circles of that starting in November. And that's really a beautiful practice, which needs a lot more time to explain, but it's...
Oh, I would love to learn more about that.
Yeah.
I'll have to have you on again.
Yes.
Cool. And then how do they find out, how do our viewers or listeners, find out more information about Mary and
about
Sister?
that?
Yeah.
So that will be a Facebook page. I guess
Okay.
that's linked to my Facebook. So my Amy Castillo Facebook would then direct you, I guess, to that Mary and Sisterhood.
Got it.
Page.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to, learn more and
Thank you.
go online and
Yeah.
see what more we can find from you. Amy, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to get to know you and hear your story and everything you're up to these days. It sounds wonderful. Everybody reach out. She really is amazing. And thank you everyone for joining me today. This is Liz Peterson on KVSH, Voice of Vashon, 101.9 FM. Have a great day, everybody. And remember to get out there and raise the vibe. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us, everybody, for this great show. Thank you, Amy Castillo,
thank you so
here in the
much.
studio today. Have a great day, everybody. Remember, raise the vibe. Bye.